Hello. Music, is that too loud? I think it's okay. Ugh. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to trying to learn Godot while knowing very little. Here again. To, well, learn more. Last time we were fighting with a few things, and I finally got the opportunity to get in touch with my developer friend and do some actual, like, code review and trying to fix some shit, and I also managed to entice him to actually help on the project. So now, mostly with, like, challenging tasks, because those are more interesting to him. So he's not really, like, broadly involved, but I can sort of shuffle bigger problems over to him to help. And so I did sort of give him a challenge. I was slow in turning Mix It Up on, so I assume that it is actually connected, but it didn't actually chime in. And so one of the challenges that I wasn't sure how to tackle managed to get solved, at least in part at this point, via my compatriot, which is specifically how to arc shots rather than fire directly. So there's sort of like the two different worlds of thought on this that I think kind of exist. There's like the World of Warships style, where you actually have to like aim and shit and, you know, be accurate, as far as I remember, at least. Hey, Kappa. Maybe there's some auto aiming, some aim assist in there. I don't quite remember. But what I'm trying to more replicate is what was done in Warship Gunner, which was very arcadey in that, like, you just pointed where you wanted to shoot with the controller in that case and a target reticle, and it would just put the rounds there. But of course the rounds still obeyed gravity, so like it had to determine the appropriate arc to put the rounds where you were pointing. And so that was sort of the challenge that I put out to my compatriot, who took a first stab, and largely put out something that works. The only sort of caveat is that it actually controls both the initial velocity and the arc. So it's really sort of doing more of a maintaining a consistent arc while modulating the firing velocity, which is not exactly how cannons work. So like down the line, we'll rotate that to being manipulating the arc and then having a fixed velocity. But as it stands, at least, we all of the sudden, because of the fact that I was able to just rope in someone far more skilled at coding than myself, we now suddenly are able to simply point the mouse somewhere, click, and we get an arc to put the cannon shell on that position. Not only that, but if we specifically mouse over a target, it will put the round directly on the target. And what we don't have the ability to see right now, it should also put the round on the target even if the target is moving. So it should automatically lead the target the appropriate amount as long as the target is continuing to move in a straight line. Obviously, these are all stationary, but it does, you can see, do that at the moment. Oh, interesting. There's like a spot that it didn't consider. Yeah, so if you aim at the sky, we don't know what to necessarily do just yet. I think we haven't decided, so I think it just doesn't fire. It's interesting that... Anyway, doesn't matter. You will also notice that we fixed the whole exploding issue. Yes, I was correct. So we got a couple things to fix. That I want to fix. Which is what we're going to kind of work on today, is tidying up a few things so that things are like a little tightened up. One that I'm not going to fix immediately, you can see the explosions work, and you can see, one, the water shader does not like the light emitted. We're not going to fix that. I don't think this will be the long-term water shader we're going to use, so we're kind of stuck with that. What we do need to fix around that is that all of these nodes that are being created are the explosions, and they are not cleaning themselves up after they run the animation. So I need to figure out how to clean that up. So another thing, probably the first thing we're going to tackle, because it's relatively easy because I had it fixed in the old style of camera that we were using, is that, so this one, right, it moves the camera when the mouse is at the edges of the screen, but it does it similarly if it does not have the mouse contained. So like I have sort of escaped out of the game and it's still moving the camera, and I don't want that. That I can fix. It would be in our camera. So this sets the input mode to confined. And I think if we come down to... Okay, so there's the function fire at. So this is the new function that was added. So if we come to the camera pan, so physics processor, camera pan, and this should just be if equals find. Oh wait, not this one. This one can always happen. Identifier confined, not declared in the current scope. If input.mouse mode check. Let's see here. Godot check input mouse mode. Mouse and input coordinates. Get mouse position. Input event mouse button. Mouse click. Can I see it? Input mouse mode set. Oh, get. What? Right. Ah. Confined is 3. If equals 3. Attempt to open script floating body GD resulted in error file not found. I moved that. Scripts / player 3D resource. Right, I moved it. I know. Okay, so we are confined and we are working. Escape, we are no longer confined and the thing just works. I don't really like using the value 3 here just because that's obfuscated. Can I just use mouse mode confined? Equals mouse mode confined. Is it a string? Oh, no, we can't do... Okay. I don't like that, but that will work for the moment, I guess. Mouse mode equals... Okay, so that is great. We have fixed one problem. I do kind of find it hilarious. The way this does launch the things in the way that it does. I kind of want to find a use for this style. But I don't know what that might be, but it is really funny. I don't know, because I like the math that has made this work this way. I wonder if I can put like some kind of a line attack so that it just like draws this line between you and where you aim. I don't know. It amuses me. I don't hate it. Okay. So now how do I clean up? I mean, logically, I would think that if not one shot, else reset particles, has one shot, anim play, anim seek. How, let's see, Godot, Q free after animation. Perfect. How do I queue free but only after my animation has fully played? Probably wait for the animation finish signal to be emitted using yield. Can a function track which calls certain functions at certain times and you can pass variables, you use it with the little plus sign. Okay, that is not a complete answer, my mans. Well, it's also a very old response. How do I make sure Q-free triggers after death animation? Ooh, they're all from like 7 years ago. Adding a new scene. Says best way to queue free a node after it completes an animation. Does this have... Like, does this have a function to clear out this scene after it's complete? Okay, so it doesn't have queue free in it anywhere. We have all these set to do stuff to make the animation function. But then how can we get rid of its entirety? This resets particles. That's not what we need. So this was saying... function in the death animation. If animation played, if not animation player dot is playing queue free. That seems clumsy. There's... Somebody was mentioning... script I'm using to play the animation and to free it from the memory looks like this. Function dead is dead equals true velocity vector animate sprite to play queue free. I would probably wait for the animation finish using yield. Yield animation finished queue free. What the hell is yield? Does yield, like, pause the script until it... If anim has animation... Anim play, one shot... Anim seek 00... Yield? Await. Await. Animation finished. Animation finished. Anim.play. So this would be anim animation finished. I mean, it doesn't hate this. Will this just work? It did not. See all of our node 3Ds here. Each one of these is one of the particle systems. Okay. Oh, it's because I didn't add the queue free. That's an important part of this. Okay. Remote. Not promising that I already see one of the explosions. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's not working. Oh, wait. How do I actually make that? Animate sprite.play. Okay, this is like exactly what I'm trying to solve. This. I simply can't tell if this is a useful response or not, frustratingly. I mean, the alternative is that I could simply put it at the end of how do animation edit we're okay, suddenly now we're trying to learn animation. Edit insert key. Nope. So do I need a new track plus 3D position track, property track, rotation track, scale track, plane shape, call method track. This one. Okay. And I want to insert a key here for Q free. So this just adds it into the animation itself, which is fine for my purposes. It would not be fine if I wanted to potentially utilize this animation as a looping animation and sometimes as a one-shot animation, but there is no circumstance that I can ever imagine needing to use this as a looping animation. So with that animation updated, let's tidy up what we were trying to do here. This hypothetically now should work. Yeah, you can see those node 3Ds are appearing and then correctly clearing themselves out afterwards. Okay, great. That is another challenge tackled. So, another thing that I wanted to do was to try to give our cannon shells a better animation, or any VFX at all, I suppose. Also sort of realizing this is a really inefficient way to do this. I guess that's something I'll just have to tidy up down the line if I ever make it there. So, why we had given up on the VFX last time was that it wasn't pointing the right direction. Also, we're gonna go ahead and get rid of the water plane because it was also not playing nicely with the water plane, but I also don't actually give a shit about this water plane because it's just not correct. So let's delete it. Where is my transparency? Here we go. We're just gonna put in something blue. That is approximately water. I also need to fix the fact that the cannonballs sometimes just bounce off. I don't know why it does that. But it does. Okay. Turning left and right continues to function. My throttle is not functioning. What happened to the throttle? Just weird. Oh, I see. I see why. This was due to my poor positioning of things. I see. Because this is also part of input, but was separated out. Okay. Yeah. Now we're cruising again. Sick. Okay, that's pretty amusing. Yeah. Shit works. The arcing is Hilarious. I love looking at that. Man, look at that pinpoint accuracy. That's incredible. So one thing I think that would be helpful is some margin of error to obtain targets, but you know what? We'll worry about that later. That's just amusing. Interesting. I noticed a level of detail thing there. Like, presumably when it's far enough away, the animation... Oh, yeah, it's still playing. We lose track of the balls. Oh, wait. That's not related to that. We're losing the balls because they actually cease to exist because I had put a time limit on the balls. Yeah, timeout. On timer timeout, queue free. That's something I should have... I'm going to add that to my questions. Cannon shells. Timeout for queue free. Although, maybe this isn't necessary anymore. I'm queue-free when they impact water, when they impact an enemy. I mean, it seems like a decent safety. Is the parentheses the time? Yeah, it is. To ensure that things are not going to persist forever. Maybe we just say like 60 seconds is the max. Just as a protection. That might be over optimization for... That should now allow us to actually shoot the... That's so far! I can barely even see that spec. That definitely did not persist on stream. That is wild. That definitely got compressioned out. Look at this. Look, we can just shoot these from forever away. And they just keep landing. It's perfect. That's extremely funny to me. Insane accuracy. You can even just vaguely see the explosions. Okay. So then, one, let me tidy up my prints here. Just so that we're not printing everything out anymore. I was here. I don't need that print anymore either. Just tidy up some of my debugging. Okay. What do we want to try to tackle here? What was I... Let me see here. Open. Where did I put these? What did I have marked as my... Did I leave it in my downloads as an incredibly irresponsible place to put it? Where did my Excalibur go? File, save to disk. Nope, that has not maintained where I last was putting it. So this is a .excalibur. Okay, so I do have something in... Oh, did I just... Hold on. That would have been an incredibly logical place to put it. Did I put it in the incredibly logical place? Open... Was it in the game location? It was. The board.excalibur. Okay, so... What did I have as my milestone 2? I wanted some terrain. The camera moved with mouse near the edge of the screen. We did that. Cannon follows the mouse. We did that in the sense that the projectiles do, but not the cannon itself. That's a useful thing to do. Okay, let's try to figure this out. I feel like we actually have a huge leg up in starting this because my compatriot who worked on this just did the process of finding a position of the mouse. This fire at. Global position. So we're providing a global position. Fire at global position vector 3. And where exactly are we getting that? Object clicked, global position vector 3. If object is water body, class water body, function input event. Okay, I'm gonna have to maybe find some time tomorrow to look through this with my compatriot to see if he can help explain exactly how this works. It's relatively understandable. I just don't know enough to understand like why he's done one thing over another. Like this is interesting. Water body. Extending a static body. What makes something a water body? Func input event. Camera, event, input event, event position. Shape IDX and void. If event is input mouse event, variable mouse event, input event mouse button equals event. If mouse event dot button index equals mouse button dot mouse button left and mouse event dot pressed, get tree get first node in group player controller dot object clicked self event position. I see maybe. So if this is clicked and mouse event pressed, get player controller and find the self object clicked. I don't exactly understand what this does. Okay, so that's if object is function object clicked. Okay, so that is what water body is, object clicked here. Sends this node 3D and then the global position. So water body on an input event. If event is input a mouse, event mouse button. It's a mouse button being pressed or released. I'm not sure why we would use this event mouse button rather than like our sort of left click, or our, more importantly, the fire cannon event, which is mapped to left mouse button. Because I feel like this could be simplified to that. Maybe you just didn't check to see that we had that event mapping. Although, yeah, we should be able to do that. Because it would still find where the mouse is, probably. Get tree, get first player, first node in group, player controller, and then object clicked. And so that's a water body. So did the enemy targets end up getting converted to this water body type? How is that getting utilized? We did do that. Way to go, us. Okay, so here, yeah, so this is something that the enemy targets do. Okay, I see. So the water body is... Is this the water body? It is. Okay, so our floor plane static body is what is getting classified as the water body. I see. That makes sense. So that is our water terrain, which I had sort of done by grouping this into the global group of water, which I think probably is a way to accomplish the same thing. The grouping sort of more just a Godot native style thing, and this a more code intensive way of doing it. I say intensive, but really just dedicated code way to do it, which would make sense for a developer to go that route. Okay, I'm piecing together what has occurred. That's useful education. Hello, Operation Red Zone. Welcome. So what I don't 100%. So I guess event position. What is event position? The event position is where the click occurs. I see. So that's why he's sort of using mouse button rather than cannon. So if... Interesting. This is a little fragile then. because this is relying on detecting where the input event occurred in click. But if we were to map this in a different way, I'm going to write this down, actually, for our next code review. Next code review questions. Yeah, you know, we can still ask this, although I'm kind of fine with, you know what, let's get rid of it. So, what you making? So, what I am trying to accomplish is something akin to the old Warship Gunner 2. I don't know if you're familiar with that from the PlayStation 2 era. Warship Gunner, Warship Gunner 2. There was, I believe, technically what was considered a Warship Gunner 3, but it had a different name because it was only released in Japan, so it had the Japanese name and not the English name, and blah, blah, blah. It's a sort of, you know, arcadey naval combat game. So it's kind of like World of Warships in vibe, but very different in that it's a lot wackier. Warship Gunner 2 specifically, you know, you're not having to try... Okay, so if you are familiar with Warship Gunner 2, that's what I'm kind of trying to bring that sort of vibe back to life. I am very slow going at it because this is the first... It's not the first game that I and a friend have tried to work on, but it is the first one that I am dedicating myself to specifically trying to do the, like, Godot coding of. Hello, McNeil Gaming. So I do have a friend who is a developer who is much better at this, who I have finally enticed into helping me in certain ways, specifically some of the tougher challenges, because he finds those much more interesting to solve. And it's not like I don't want to paint my friend as though he, like, doesn't want to help. The issue that we both have when we're both trying to work on a game is that we are trying to overcome both of our challenges in staying focused, or, you know, finding time, or just generally completing literally anything. And so my current strategy is working on it on stream, because stream gives me sort of a scheduled time to try to accomplish something and, like, get at it and get at least slow progress. And then my friend's strategy is more to, like, do things that are actually interesting to him so that he can, like, actually enter a flow state and stay focused on it, because he has ADHD, so it can be a difficult time for him to, like, stay focused on a project. And so we now have a sort of I don't know, gentleman's agreement, if you will, that when I find challenging problems that he might find interesting, I can sort of offload some of that work to him, and then I can sort of keep chunking away at the more mundane work as I try to learn Godot and programming and getting, like, capable of doing this stuff. And then, like, if I come across hard problems that can, like, kind of jump forward the progress, I can sort of offload them to him, and he'll get some done. Which is, today is the first time that we have any code that he actually implemented. And last week I got the chance to sit down with him and do a code review of what I had done thus far, get some ideas on what directions I should be taking, things that I've done a little bit incorrectly, or nothing was egregious, because I'm at least familiar enough with coding and development, because I work as a software quality engineer on a dev team, so I am very, you know, very familiar with sort of basic code hygiene practices and stuff like that. I just haven't sat down and, like, done code. So, yeah, let's run where we're at. So we have a very ordinary looking ocean because we don't have anything nice for the ocean yet. We've got a camera that we can move around. The big new thing that has been implemented by my friend is that now, rather than simply firing the cannon forward, the cannon is fired at where we click, which is great. And so now we can specifically target. We can turn. We have a set of 4 throttle positions that allow us to move forward and backwards, and this is all using rigid bodies, so that it's all physics based, which will matter down the line when we get. So on the subject of water shaders, I did have I had a shader that was on, but its scale is all off. It was one that I had put together from a tutorial on YouTube. The scale of it wasn't right, so like the waves didn't match the size of the ship, and it was behaving very poorly with, I just implemented these explosion VFX, which emits light, and it was just like not behaving well with the shader. It was like just glaringly bright, and so since the explosions are working and the shader was bound to be replaced anyway, I chose to just like cut that out for the moment and sort of revisit some sort of water, because obviously we are going to need water. But honestly, I expect the water shader might be one of those challenging tasks that I might see if my friend will be interested. Can the enemies attack yet? No, they cannot. That is one of the things that I was contemplating trying to work on today. My current goal is, right now, what I would like to do is, now that we can fire the cannon balls go in a direction, but you can see obviously that the cannon is just a fixed position. What? Oh, I know. I try to avoid thinking about a lot of the very challenging things that will come up later, just because if I think too much about them, they start feeling overwhelming and like it's scary to keep going. And so yes. So right now, I am trying to see how I can point the turret, what exists of a turret, towards the mouse position. And so I was looking at the code that my friend had put together for how he was finding the position to fire the cannon towards. But I'm seeing now that it's using an event position. So like where the event occurred on clicks, which is not going to work for us because we need it to look even when there's not an event. We need it to be looking that way at all times. Now, there was a video that I had bookmarked about turret facing, which actually may be extremely relevant. I didn't think I was going to need it, actually, since my friend had done this firing towards, but now I'm realizing that I can use the same premise to face the turret. So now let me see here. My lists. Where's my lists? My playlists? I had put it down as a watch later, I believe. Yes, here we go. Watch later. Okay. Let me pause my music here. So here's the video that I had looked at to use for the turret stuff. This turret rotate and elevate toward a target. Target tracking includes code and math. And the premise that he's using, I watched it previously to get an idea of if it was going to be the thing I needed.
Its target in 3 dimensions, regardless of its orientation. If it's rotating,
yeah, it's freaking complicated.
Tracking. The turret itself will feature independent rotation as well as elevation of its guns, target tracking, customizable tracking speeds, and like I said, it works with any orientation.
This time, I really just need it to face.
The idea of the turret is 3 node 3Ds.
And so what he is doing is essentially taking a position, mapping it to an X and a Y.
Instead, it's not a big deal. Mesh instance 3D inherits
You might want a better master than me. We can learn together.
Is going to rotate around its own y-axis, and then child of the body is the head.
I wonder if
and it's only going to
this might not be quite what we need, actually, I'm realizing. Because this is reliant on, he's using it for like AI turrets that are then targeting an object in 3D space. What I need, how do I, mapping, Godot, Godot, mapping mouse position to world coordinate. Mouse and input coordinates. For the hardware display coordinates, using hardware coordinates makes sense in the case of writing complex UIs meant to run on PC. Viewport display coordinates. Uses viewports to display content. Viewports can be scaled by several options. Sure. So we want to be using viewports for like that. But what about when the mouse mode is set to input.mousemode captured? The event.position value from input event mouse motion is the center of the screen. Use event.relative instead of event.position and event.velocity to process mouse movements and position changes. When implementing features such as mouse look, it's recommended to use event.screenRelative and event.screenVelocity. Sure. But that's not quite right. That's not quite what I need. How? Okay, here we go. This is the right question, except it's in Godot 2D. Working on a city building game. As you can see, I selected the tile. Convert the position from map to world. I get the coordinate as follows. When I click on that spot with my mouse, try to get the position of the pointer, I get X and Y coordinates around 60 and 50, which is the viewport. Get underscore global mouse position. But what does that give us? So within our player, no, it would be within canon, I guess. God damn it. I was complaining so much. Yes, mouse captured hides the mouse. I am using mouse confined. So mouse captured isn't necessarily what I need to concern myself with. I was complaining so much with my friend about how I hate the fact that these tabs up here do not relate to the selected script at any given point in time. It drives me insane when I'm trying to navigate the scripts to like try to switch things. Every time I try to switch them up there and just like, nope. And I'm like, oh my God, every time. Like, I would be actively yelling about how annoying it is and how I expect this to change. I'm like, I'm annoyed that this is how it works. And then I would still click something to try to change the script. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind. It drives me bonkers. His suggestion is that there is a way to set up Visual Studio Code, VS Code, in a way that you can pull in automatically, or you open your Godot GD scripts in into VS Code. I haven't gone about the trouble of figuring that out, but that allows you to work on your scripts in VS Code, which is a bit more of a feature-rich IDE anyway over Godot, and then you can just be working on your, your scenes, sans scripts in sans scripts in the Godot IDE itself. So I'll probably go about doing that at some point. So ultimately, move into input into player object. I believe that was done. I believe my friend did that. That was something that we had talked about, and I believe it has now been done. But within the physics process, my background, what small background I have in coding, is largely in Java, like raw Java. But I don't really love coding. This is the most satisfaction I've had coding, like, ever, because it's at least going towards an end goal that I like, rather than either busy work for school or whatever, or, stupid ass projects at work, like automated testing. It's just like, I don't care that much. So I don't like coding in those contexts. This is better, but like, I have a couple years of experience with Java. That it's so long ago that I meaningfully did Java. I did it in high school, and then I had, I guess, a couple semesters of it in college, and then I promptly didn't worry about it anymore. I have done a little bit of Python, but it was really just like the educational part of doing Python. I had Python for I just did a couple weeks really of going through some Python education just for work, because for a long time I've been part-time I've had a part-time project at work, though I am still full-time employed at the company. Thus I have part-time of my time to better myself for work or whatever. So it's like, yeah, I'll go through some Python coding videos and whatever, and then you dabble in some other stuff. So I did Python for a couple weeks, and then I have largely forgot all of the Python shit. It's the most important thing about code that I think is that, for the most part, you just need to understand the underlying logic of how it operates, and then you're sort of free to at least broadly understand what's going on in a lot of different code syntaxes. But that doesn't make you proficient at them. It just makes you able to read and largely understand them, because I can read and largely understand them, and I am not proficient. It takes me a long time to do things. So one of the things that my friend had brought up was the look at function, which uses a receives a vector 3. And so the goal would then be, so what's the goal? The goal is that we want to get the mouse position as it relates to the I don't know what axis it actually is. What plane are we looking at? It would be the X plane. As it relates to the X plane, and then use look at to point the turret front to that position in the X plane. And so this is broadly the goal. Use look at, so we need to figure out how to get the mouse position mapped onto the X plane is what I want to do. Like if my mouse is like just over here, what is it over? Like what position is that at? And then so that's what I'm wondering. Mouse and input coordinates. How to turn mouse coordinates into world coordinates. Forum. There is in Unity the function screen to world point that transforms a point from screen space into world space. Is there a similar function in Godot? Get local mouse position will return the mouse's coordinates relative to the node that you're calling it from. Get local mouse position. Okay, hold on. Node.get canvas transform.affine inverse. Get the view to world space transformation matrix. Hold on. That's what we hold on. To convert a view space position to a 2D world space position, you can use the following code. Variable view to world equals your node.get canvas transform.affine inverse variable world position. Hold on. So, whoop, that's not what I need. So this suggestion is get local mouse position. Get local mouse position. Is that not a thing? Function not found in base self. Really? Is that so? Will return the mouse's coordinates relative to the node that you're calling it from. Okay, hold on. Let's see if I can get local mouse position Godot. To the documentation. Oh, the music's off. Hold on. The silence. Come back, music. Thank you. You gotta work your... Well, I stream Saturdays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Those Saturdays right now are my Godot streams. I'll be back Tuesday. We're currently playing through Final Fantasy 16. So like Tuesday, Thursdays are my game streams, and right now then my Saturday streams are my Godot streams. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. Hope you have a good time. Well, a good time at work is generous, but you know, good luck, I guess. Good luck at your second shift. Godot engine. What? Why is this not coming up? Get mouse position in the Godot forums. Oh, hold on. Get local mouse position does not return the correct. Okay, so that's in GitHub. What the hell are you talking about? Hey, Scobalts, how's it going? Man, I'm so bummed. I thought this was really going to be the solution. I thought get local mouse position was just going to be like, point over there. This could have been just like, look at from position. Get local mouse position. Yeah, doesn't work. Okay. Finding mouse position relative to player. Okay, hold on. This seems good. Right now, my code for determining how the player aims is variable mouse position equals get viewport dot get mouse position look at mouse position. Problem is I want the playable area to be larger than the viewport. When I attach a camera 2D, goddamn 2D makes this so much easier. Damn it. Use get local mouse position. God damn it. This changed the way aiming worked, but still didn't point as expected, though this helped me discover get global mouse position, which works perfectly, so you did end up helping me indirectly. But that's not... I mean, I guess it could just work. I mean, I guess that's... I need to be more willing to just try something, like get global mouse position. Is this just like input dot? How did this work? What was this elsewhere? Event position. Fire object dot global position. Player ship. This is no longer relevant. Go ahead and close that. How do we actually get global mouse position? Who owns get global mouse position? Who can do this? Where is my documentation? Godot documentation. Please explain. Godot docs, master branch. Here we go. Get global mouse position. Explain yourself. Get method descriptions. That's what I want. Get global mouse position. Okay, so that's a vector 2. Turns mouse cursor's global position relative to the canvas layer that contains this node. What about get local mouse position? Local mouse position. Also a vector 2. What node are we on? What node is this? This is a canvas item. Why the hell can canvas items do that? Why is it only canvas items? What the heck? What the heck? Playing Fields of Mystery and all you want to do is lay... Yeah, right? Does it run on Steam Deck? As far as I know, it largely runs on Steam Deck. Generally. Fields of Mystery is, in fact, a pretty sleepy game. It's actually one of my issues with, like, playing that style of game. Because, like, if I am at all not, like, incredibly well rested, it just makes me sleepy. And I am tired when I play them. It is remarkable to me how everyone seems to be very straightforward about how it's like, oh yeah, you just get global mouse position. Nope. No problem. And I can't. None of my nodes are allowed to do that. I can't get mouse positions at all. Godot, look at mouse 3D object. How to make the 3D character to look at the mouse. This is old. But you need to do a raycast of your mouse position in the 3D world. One of the most common tasks in game development is casting a ray, checking what it hits. This enables complex behaviors, AI, etc. to take place this sort. They're suggesting variable camera equals camera variable from camera.project ray origin event.position variable 2 equals from plus camera.project ray normal event. No, I don't need the camera. From equals... Let's see what I can do. I'm working on a top-down game. So goddamn 2D top-down bullshit. Variable space state equals get world dot direct space state, getting the current physics state, getting the current mouse position. Variable mouse position equals get viewport dot get viewport dot get mouse position. Ray origin equals camera dot project ray origin mouse position. Ray end equals ray origin plus camera dot project ray normal mouse position times a number. If not intersection, that's so complicated. Okay, but we're get viewport dot get mouse position. Okay, so if we're here and we do get viewport dot get local mouse position. And so this would be look at oh my god, does that maybe work? Hold up. If that just works, that's gonna be batshit insane. No, of course it doesn't. Non-existent function get local mouse position in base window. So the best we can do is just get mouse position. Does it still maybe work? Can it just work? Perhaps? Nope. Non-existent function get. That would be because I typoed that. Yeah. Oh. Argument 1 should be vector 3, but it is vector 2. Damn. Damn. How to get a 3D object to point towards the mouse. I will just assume your scene tree to have a canvas layer or camera 3D where your mouse is interacting from. Rigid body or character body, 3D nodes typically possess a look at position method. So all you need to do is check what getViewport.getMousePosition returns. Then find out which Z value your camera has. You can then have a vector 3 parameter which can be used for the look at method for the cat. At least that's what I think. Viewport has different coordinates than the actual map. Then you need to make use of raycasting, which requires a camera 3D node. I still don't know how you're... Okay, so I guess we have to... I guess we really do have to raycast. So I guess ultimately the concept is that we're using the camera to raycast a line to the mouse. And then we maybe are checking where it intersects with the X-plane. Probably, or somewhere. And then we get those coordinates and we use look at on the cannon. That sounds like a lot, if I'm honest. That sounds like a lot. I would still like to do that. However, perhaps there is something more useful to do. So one of the other things that we need to do is we need to get our enemies moving. And so one of the things that I had asked about with my friend, because the way the enemy ships move and the way that the player ship moves are essentially the same. Like this process is the same. And so what we want to do is actually to extract some of these tasks out into functions. And then extract those onto essentially a different class. That would be like a class ship. And which I think technically, so we've got, I added this, which we haven't done anything with yet, but the premise here is that it has to do the buoyancy shit. So this would be a floating body. So then ship would, I guess, extend floating body, because all ships would be floating. And so then within... Okay, let's start from here. Create new script. Inherits floating body. Path scripts slash ship. I don't freaking... my capitalization is all over the place. God damn it. Okay, so this is class... what did I do on that? Class name, floating body. Class name, ship, extends floating body. Is this supposed to be capital as well? Class name? Nope, both of those are underscore. Class, or under lowercase class name. Class name, ship, extends floating body. Called when the node enters the scene tree. Called for every frame. Okay. So class aim ship. And then it is on ship that we would actually take this stuff here, integrate forces, and we would move that onto ship. And then the other thing that we would be missing, we need to go get. Thrust rotated. So we are using our variable thrust, max thrust, torque, throttle options, maybe stay. Variable thrust, max thrust, torque. Okay. State dot apply torque. Rotation direction times torque. Rotation directions are set here. Torque is established here. I want to change this name actually, rather than variable steering force. We're going to call that steering force so that that is clear. Torque was not clear. Steering force. Let's improve our code hygiene while we're working on this. Well, improving our code hygiene in multiple ways now. So the other piece of this is so okay, so we have our inputs increase throttle and reduce throttle. Func set thrust What is this? Okay, yeah, so it's this. Void. And we want this here. And then we can just set thrust. Set thrust. So that's do not repeat yourself principle. We get rid of this. Okay, let's see if this still functions. Yeah, it does. Current throttle position. Toot, 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 toot. Yeah, it does. Oh, yeah. Wee, arc that shit. That's extremely satisfying. Okay, great. So we have tidied up the thrust a little bit, just as a matter of principle. And so so this would technically be so we have the inputs on here. God, these are so close to the same thing, but they do just if input is increased, if input is reduced, they just got to be different. Okay, so set thrust, we replicate on the ship. Throttle options not declared in the current scope. Okay, so do I want the throttle options on ship? No. Do I not? Should I? I mean, I could. Okay, more questions. Next code review questions. Get mouse position, or I guess I should say raycast mouse position to point to look at for cannon. Okay, what if we set thrust Throttle options current. Okay, what if we do this? What if we send throttle. What if we just send throttle? And then this is throttle times max thrust. And so then so we can set thrust, and then we send the throttle, and then we would apply the force of the thrust, and we would also steer left and right. And so then if we wanted to utilize this on the player 3D, player 3D is extending floating body, and what we would need to do set thrust, and we would send this and then this is Control K, and this can extend ship. Yeah, so this already exists. So we wouldn't need these anymore. But we also just don't need this entirely. So we're dealing with our physics process here and the camera. So then here we're dealing with the throttle position, and then we're just calling to set thrust, and set thrust is on ship. And we're using our max thrust and steering force, but that could be later made to be set on creation or otherwise. Does this work? Oh my god, it worked. That was probably not actually a complicated thing that I just did, but it felt like it was going to shit the bed. That felt precarious, to say the least. Okay, now, why did we do that? Is the question, right? Why was that a valuable thing to do? So, by extrapolating, not the right word, extracting the setting of the thrust and the application of the thrust and steering to... this is not quite correct. I think. Is action... because we don't want this to be is action pressed. We want to call a function to do that. We need a function. Let me see here. Also, what happens if I... hold on. What happens if I hold both directions? I'll be damned. It just balances out. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really expect that to happen. How? What? Why? Oh, I see. Because the way I'm doing this is... -1 + 1 lands at 0. Do I then reset that somewhere? I don't entirely know why that works. Why? So if it's pressed... No, I set it to 0 at the beginning of all of this. Okay. Interesting. So how do I extract that in a way that would allow sort of the setting of the direction in a different way? If is action pressed. Maybe what we want to do... Also, I actually kind of want to move a lot of this shit over to the player controller, but I'm just going to take this like one step at a time. Because we're trying to... We're trying to build a better hierarchy of control. Whereas this player 3D is kind of the ship, and then it should be controlled via the player controller. Although I can ask for the details. Difference in responsibilities between player 3D and player controller. I'm not entirely sure how those differ. Because if I've extrapolated ship and player 3D is extending ship, player controller is really just a regular node that takes actions on player ship, I guess. I guess that's kind of the difference. So it's like player ship dot do this rather than self dot do this. Because the goal is that we can essentially have like a just dot do this, and this dot do this could be the player, or, you know, these functions are available for an enemy AI system to similarly do the same thing to a ship based on some other set of rules or logic. So we want to do, I guess, something similar to these, actually. So if input action is action just pressed, if input dot is action just pressed, steer left, then what we need to do is we need to have a function set Set steering. So do we want that to be 1 set steering, or do we want this to be like steer left, steer right? Steer left, void, func, steer right, void. And so then within this, steer right is that. Steer left is that. Identify rotation direction is not. Oh. Right. So we actually want variable rotation direction to be set up here. And then we would want no, I'm thinking of how to do this. Because I'm wondering if I should then, if I would need a essentially clear steering function, but that's going to give an odd experience if you like press and hold left, you press and hold right, that will work correctly. But then, oh, stream decks are expensive. They are. All computing is expensive because of AI. It's all bullshit. If you're holding left and right and then you release one of them, the way I'm envisioning it, that would clear the steering. And that would not be good. Because then you'd be holding right, but you wouldn't actually be going. I guess I could do a stupid, you know, I might as well just take a stab at it and then work it out later. Function clear steering. Void. So this would be like if input dot is action pressed steer right. The expectation is here would be that steer right is still pressed. Why would I need to do it this much? Actually, why would I need to do it this much? Hold on. Player 3D. If input is action just pressed, steer left. Can we do more than one thing at once? Turns true when the user has started pressing the action event in the current frame or physics tick. It will only return true on the frame or tick that the user pressed down the button. This is useful for code that needs to run only once when an action is pressed instead of every frame while it's pressed. So then we would need to watch for is action just released. So this would be okay, so we can just do this as set steering. And we can take this whole thing here. If the action's pressed here, then we make it this. If it's this, then we do this. This still feels like we could get a weird behavior. You know what? Let's try it. Function set steering. If this, if that. And on this one, if input is action, set steering. Why not? Set steering. It's right there. Set steering. Ship extends floating body. Player 3D extends ship. Find your shit, bro. If input dot is action just pressed, steer right, set steering, whoops, set steering. I guess I'm really just like over optimizing for no goddamn reason. This is gonna like process twice. Let's see if it works though. Whoa! No! Whoa! No! 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 Yep, it's doing the thing that I was concerned about. Oh god, that's not acceptable. No! 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 Right. Right, so that's why this would need to be is action just pressed, because it's only going to be doing it once. Action just pressed is action just pressed. And then this would need also if input dot is action just released. Bro, this is way worse than what I had. Like, let's just see if it works, I guess. Because I don't want this to... I have to have released an... Wait, I guess what I need then is rotation direction equals 0. That 0. Equals vector 3.0. How do I capital V, capital vector 3.0? Okay. Maybe that's what I need, actually. That's maybe what I was missing. Hey, Venge. How's the progress? Decent. Is this... Well, that... No, that's weird and stuttery. That's not quite correct. So the big changing things is that in the last week I got the chance to talk to one of my friends who is a developer. So I did a sort of a code review to get some advice on where I was going, all that stuff. And so I had some sort of takeaways to try to improve, tidy up, sort of like move in a better direction. As well as I had, I got sort of like a agreement that as I came across like complicated tasks that were sort of complicated enough to be interesting for him to like want to dive in and like take a look at, I can sort of hand over those problems, and those are things that he'll like look into and tackle. Because we have long wanted to make games together, but we're both all aboard the struggle bus for various different reasons to like actually get things accomplished. And so we're trying to, you know, find our own different ways to keep going forward. Mine is by using stream time as a way to like have a scheduled time to do things and stay focused on it and make things happen. And his is to sort of try to stick to problems that are more interesting so that he can actually focus on them. So what the significance of that is that I did in fact have a problem that was complicated enough to get him involved with, which was great in that, so previously we were firing just straight ahead, but he has implemented code to fire where we're clicking with the mouse, which was kind of always the vision. I just didn't know how to accomplish that. He also has done it so that if you're mousing over like a target, then it will sort of like lock onto that target and just go straight there. And if that target happens to be moving, it should correctly lead the target so that it will hit it when it lands. I haven't been able to prove that out because I haven't got my enemies moving yet, which is sort of what I was trying to tidy up at this point to get things in a state where I can do that. And what I am doing to support that is that I am trying to sort of extract my ship movement out of the player strictly and move it into a new class called ship, which is extending floating body, And floating body is a new one that extends rigid body that I'm going to use later. So we're going to use the floating body class to do all of our buoyancy calculation and implementation. So once we have a shader that's got waves going up and down, we can find the height of the wave and then compare that to the floating body's height and then apply a force if the floating body is supposed to go up, not apply a force if it's not, so then gravity would push it downward, and so that's the floating body. And then a ship is obviously a floating body because ships float, and the ship will have on itself all of the sort of motion stuff. And so what that buys us is that we can have a player controller that communicates with the ship, or is like, you know, controlling a ship, so that then ship is doing things. You call your ship dot, you know, move. And then similarly, we can easily swap that out also for something like an enemy AI to also interact with the exact same ship interface in an interchangeable fashion, rather than re-implementing movement on both the player location and the enemy ship location, because it's the same kind of motion. We have to do the same thing. They're all rigid bodies in the water. And so rather than re-implementing it, we are doing the necessary extractions to be like doing things correctly. That was a lot of the things that were talked about in the code review that got me pointed in a better direction, because I knew that I wanted to do that. Essentially, I was like, movement, it should be the same for a player and an enemy. How do I make that happen rather than rewriting it? And so he suggested extend your classes with other scripts and then sort of like segment off the responsibilities within those classes to, you know, keep it tidy and then reusable by whatever needs to use those. Okay, so well, and yeah, so Vince, that's exactly correct in that both me and my friend have in the past, if we have tried to make something, we have both been flaky in different ways to each other. So like, we have been equally on the struggle bus to find time, find motivation, find like sufficient focus and organization and like all of that stuff to try to move forward on a project. And so like, that's why this is honestly the newest iteration of our attempt, whereas I am largely taking point because it's a project that I want to execute and I want to get done, and I am trying to control my flakiness by doing it on stream, and then he is able to sort of more meaningfully participate in the sense that I can go to him with direct questions and like specific problems to ask him to sort of improve on or solve, which helps him and his like ADHD to sort of like tackle the thing and then not have to like stress or worry about it. And like I can then continue trying to be the, I don't know, project manager-y one and move forward on more of the mundane tasks that I can then use stream time to have a dedicated time to do those things. Because like on a random ass Wednesday night, I just a lot of times don't want to sit down and bang out code because I don't like that. Like I don't like banging out code all that much. But I find it far more interesting to be on stream working on this, talking to people. Like it gives me sort of like a time frame to work with, right? It's like I've got a few hours. Let's see what we can get done in a few hours. We learn a little bit, and then we come back next week after a week of work, and I can refocus and try it again. Okay, so I believe I have just figured out how I need to do this. I think I need to more appropriately initiate exactly what I had been doing previously, which is an if, and I need essentially var steer left bool true, or that should be false to start. Var steer right false. And so then what we actually want to be doing is if steer left, we do this. And if steer right, we do this. And we don't actually need that, because this gets renewed every time. And what we're doing here is we're setting steer left equal to true. Nope, that's steer right equal to true. Here we're using steer left equal to true. And then we would want we actually probably want our because we need specifically if input dot is action not pressed. Can I just do exclamation point input dot is action pressed steer left? Does that work? I think it did, actually. Steer. Hold on, I'm gonna do this in the right. Steer right equals false. I don't actually like the way this looks. I'll have to ask I need to do a code review to do this better. The premise is sound. This is what I want out of this. So then player is action pressed. Then we set steering. I think the issue is that this is like double doing this. Maybe I should... Should I separate those out into a steer left and a steer right? Shoot, that's still not correct, though. Shoot, that's not quite correct, because this doesn't unset after I release. Shit. What a significant annoyance. This is so overly wordy to get this done. There's no way that this is the correct way to do it. Let's try this again to add the just pressed. Just pressed. And then we can actually do the same with just released. I guess the benefit of this is that at the very least this minimizes the number of times that we're actually doing this call. I don't know if that's like a meaningful amount that matters at all. If it's pressed steer right, then we make it true. If it's pressed steer left, we make it true. If it's not steer right, then we're false. If it's not steer left, then this is left. Then that's false. And with those information, we then use this to make our decisions for steering. Let's try it out. Okay. If both are pressed, yup. We end up not turning if we release one. Great. We release the other one. Great. Okay. It's extra wordy. There's so many if statements. It feels really gross. I can't imagine that that's really the correct way to do that. But it undeniably works. So we'll keep it for now. You know what? We're gonna keep it for now. I could sit here and come up with reasons to change it a million times over. But for now, we're not gonna worry about that. Okay. So. Shit. That doesn't work. God damn it. Now, why this doesn't work, why I am annoyed at myself. We don't want this to be tied to an action pressed, because action pressed is only when the player is doing something, and we need this to be controllable by not the player. So what we need to do is we need to have function steer left. Okay, we are going to actually fix this because this is not going to solve the problem that we're trying to solve. Steer left. Okay, so we can steer left. Function steer right. Oh, I see. We'll make this steering left and steering right. Steering left. Steering right equals true. And we need function, I mean, like literally clear steer left. Still shitty. Steering. Stop flashing at me. False. Funk. Clear. Steer. Right. Void. Steering. Right equals false. Okay. So then we can purge this. Steer left. Steer right. Clear steer left. Clear steer right. And from the player's perspective, we do exactly the same thing. Steer left. Steer right. And this is clear steer left. Clear steer right. Okay. I think finally that's what we want. Steering left, right is this shit. Please explain, is this shit? Something is not correct. Something is not correct. Okay, cannon's still working. We can still go forward and backwards. Okay. Why is this no bueno? Oh, it's because this. I didn't change my if statement. Or, yeah, my if statements. That's why. Now it just works. Look at that. It's so great. It's so great. Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Now then, so within the ship, we are in no way reliant on any player actions. I believe that is accurate. So, now, let's go to our game scene. We have our enemy targets here. Enemy target extends a rigid body 3D, but I believe we actually want this to extend ship. Please don't explode. Please don't break everything. Actually, do I want to do that? Or do I want to just make a new... like, enemy ship? Yeah, let's make a new enemy ship. Ship node. Look at that. I made those. Sort of. Ship. Enemy ship. Okay. Okay, hold on. I don't like that. No. I don't like that. Okay, so add a child node. Just a node 3D, I guess. Create. Because what are these? So these are technically, these are rigid bodies. What is this now? It's type player 3D. I'm not entirely sure how to like... You know what, let's change your type. We'll make you a rigid body 3D. Yeah, so okay, so you're a rigid body, and then we want to give you attach a script. I want this to be scripts slash. This is gonna be a new one. Enemy. Hold on, let me. Enemy ship is going to be the script, and that's going to inherit ship. Create. Does this change what you are? Yes, it does. Extends ship. Class name enemy ship extends ship. And then we're going to open up our enemy target. And we're going to grab all of this. What is this area 3D? Which specific area 3D is this, actually? I may have done something goofy here. We can always fix it. Enemy ship. So we're going to do that. On ready. Variable area 3D. Area. I don't freaking know. It's probably fine. Okay. We now have class name enemy ship. And so for one, now we can add under enemy ship. So then under this, we want to give you a child node, and that will be a mesh 3D. And oh, wait, no. Okay, I see. Hold on. Right. Okay. How can we make... Okay, hold on. We want to... I'm going to delete you. I want a new scene. It's a 3D scene. And I want to change your type to an enemy ship. Okay. Yes. So you're enemy ship. And within the enemy ship, in this scene, where we're making a new scene, then we have our mesh instance. Oh boy, it's been a while since I actually made a new mesh, Jesus, or a new like scene. Save. This goes into scenes. This is enemy ship. We have player 3D. We have enemy ship. Save. Enemy ship belongs to group enemies. The mesh instance, we can now give you a ship. Which one would it be? Let me see here. Assets. Kinney. 3D assets. It's the space kit. Here's the preview. Maybe you grab like this guy. Or either of those would work too. What? All right. It's down here that I was seeing. Let's see. There's like, what were they called? There's like racers, which was one of them, but not really the ones that I want. Craft. That's what it was. Craft miner is what we've got. Craft cargo B. You know what? Sure, man. Whatever. That seems totally fine. Okay. And so then within that, we also need, so player 3D, we have a mesh. We need a collision 3D. It's like we also, like, what's the enemy target look like? That's not what I meant. Enemy target. Mesh, and then it's an area, and then it's a collision. Mesh, area, collision. Within the area is also a collision. Area 3D. Collision, shape 3D. And then within this is also a collision shape 3D. Can we just give you like a mesh? 3D tri-mesh shape used for physics collisions. Convex. What is the difference between a convex and concave polygon shape? Godot, convex versus concave polygon shape. Convex polygon shapes 3D. Used in physics, usually used to provide a shape for collision shape 3D. Solid, which means it detects collisions from objects that are fully inside it. Unlike concave polygon shape, which is hollow. This makes it more suitable for both detection and physics. So if I tell you to be convex, what is your shape, my dude? Although not this one doesn't need to be this. The area 3D, I think, is fine to be a box shape. Well, I say that, but actually probably not, considering this probably would impact its hit detection, but quite frankly, who gives a shit at the moment? You know what? That's totally fine. We are not in need of these being perfect. There's probably a way for me to have simply copied and pasted that size, but, well, here we are. Okay, so then... So this should grab just the area 3D within the ship itself. That should just do that correctly. Let's try this. Let's try to put an enemy ship in here. So the enemy ship is here now, and let's rotate it here. Okay. Let's set that there. Okay. I can hit that. I can, in fact, hit that. I can slightly push it around. That's very amusing. Having the issue where sometimes it bounces off and does not correctly do things, which should be fine. I just need to resolve that. I imagine it's just a matter of the collision and the areas for explosion being exactly the same size. And I probably want... I don't actually need the physics collider, do I? I just need it to explode. Can I just get rid of that collision and it'll just be fine? Maybe. It likes to put a little warning around the collision, but like, I guess it's probably fine if I know what I'm doing. Okay, now. Why don't I go ahead and give this guy some motion? I would like to make an enemy controller, but I'm just not really clear enough on how to do that. Enemy controller. How do? We'll make that into another question to ask our expert advisor. And for now, let's just include the sort of directions to move within the main thing here. So what we do on the player 3D is that we send a request to steer left when we hit left and steer right when we hit right. But most importantly, increase throttle. We're using a set thrust with a value that is relative to 1, essentially. A scalar to be multiplied by the max thrust. So let's just set thrust 1. Unexpected identifier set thrust in class body. Why don't you like that? So you want that to be within something, perhaps? So like funk ready. Set thrust 1. So do it when you are ready. Do we have a moving enemy? We friggin' have a moving enemy. And he's fast as shit. Come back here, bro. Does this... Okay, so it's not yet... Okay, bye forever. It does. So these... We're gonna set this thrust to 0.5 is what we're gonna do. So these songs are a collection of kind of all of the sci-fi and what's the other category that I included in here? It's sci-fi and synthwave songs that I have from Fat Frog Studio. And so Fat Frog Studio is a content creator provider of music, I guess. It's a publisher of music that you buy once and then have essentially a Creative Commons license to the music. So I can play it on stream royalty free. I can put it into games. I can put it into videos. I can use wherever I want. And so a lot of them are styled in the like background game music styles. So that is one of those collections of assets that I've been like paying for whenever I see these sorts of things on sale. So I think I got like 700 plus songs from them for like $30 or something. Now I've got various 3D assets and UI element assets, and like I've just been kind of like grabbing up these assets as I could in preparation for expecting to try to actually finish a game. So the music I have here might not be perfect for like what I want to go into the game, but I have something that can go in there, even if I don't have a real composer that I'm paying real money to make dedicated assets for a game. At this time, I should have all of the bits that I need to finish a game in at least an acceptably polished state. So that's what I've got going in the background. And it is but a small sampling of the vast array of music, although it's most of the things that I sort of like in my sort of niche. Though there's also a lot of like fanfare and military style and blah blah blah, which might also make sense for a naval thing. Okay, so let's not let him move around so damn fast. Well, now you're not moving at all, my man. I don't think that was when I set thrust 0.5 on ready. Did I ensure that set thrust is properly expecting? How do I typecast this? Float. Typecast. Godot typecast function argument. Static typing, that's what they call it. Okay, so it's throttle : float. Will that work? My man, you worked the once. You worked when it was set to 1. Set thrust 1. Is it gonna work again? It Bruh. 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 How dare you? Do you prefer 0.5? What's your issue, dude? And now it no move. This is unbelievable. Why? Set thrust, throttle, float. Thrust equals vector 3, 0, 0, comma, throttle times max thrust. Are you getting like retyped back to int for some reason? What is happening? What is why? Why? What? Bro. How? What? Why does this only work a 1? Well, fine. Self dot max thrust equals friggin' 6. Fine. And I'll just add a note. Enemy ship set thrust only works with 1. Y4. Oops. I forgot that I hadn't saved this yet. I'll get back to that. Alright, are you gonna... Why? Why for do you not function? What the actual fuck? What? 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 That doesn't make any sense. I am so flabbergasted by this. Apply force. Thrust equals function set thrust. Thrust equals variable thrust. Yep. Throttle times max thrust. Throttle comes in as a float. Huh? But why? Yeah, max thrust, steering force. Okay, what if I select specifically this one? And if I put your max thrust to 6, that way, what happens? Is it like not enough thrust to overcome? Is that the issue? That shouldn't be the issue. It works for me. Is the issue that you can sleep? Is that your problem? That's been a problem in the past. Where is the thing that... Player 3D... Damping is 1. Okay, well, we do want you to have damping. That's linear. That would have been why I couldn't keep up, for one. Still no. So if you get set back to 12... Bro, now you're like turbo busted. Now you just straight up don't move. Set thrust 1. 0.0. Sure. Maybe that'll help. I guess I should set your damping here. Okay, so there it goes. Okay. So it looks like the leading for movement is not set up yet. But I guess that makes sense because I didn't have anything that could move, so... I'm a little... Why are you so slow? I'm much faster than you, and I don't know why. Like, you had the instruction to simply go at full speed. And you're slow as shit. I boinked him. I don't know why. I don't know why. That's something that I suppose I can follow up to try to get help on. The important thing is that it is moving. And that's not nothing. It doesn't really have much purpose to its movement at the moment, but it does move. See, we are approaching the 3-hour mark. I'm trying to decide if I might go ahead and call it there. I've actually made a pretty good amount of progress today. And I don't think I have it in me to try to tackle a new, different challenge. One of the big things that is remaining in what I would consider this next milestone is terrain, because I would like to include terrain. But last time I tried to utilize this terrain 3D add-on to sort of make terrain, it crashed, and I have not revisited it. So that's kind of where that landed. So I might have to try to revisit that, I guess. What I should do, however, is get pull up to date, git add git commit. We're just gonna do our little git committing, git commit message. I guess I should start adding my name to this. Poe, what did I do? Let's see. Extracted ship actions. Added ship class. Moved action. Added and moved actions to ship class. What else did I do? Added movement to enemy ships. Ship. Movement to enemy ship. Was there anything else I did? I guess that's mostly it. Gave enemy ship a model. I mean, I guess that's what I did. Get push. Off it goes. Okie doke. I think that will be it for today. Honestly, that was less fighting than some of previous days we've done, and we actually were getting more things accomplished. I think they weren't visible things in a lot of ways. It was a lot of getting the code sort of moved around and the hierarchy improved. To sort of support future efforts, but you know, that shit needs done too. Well, thanks everybody for coming by. Oh, I still did not figure out. Right, I was gonna ask how to point the turret at the mouse. Yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out. As usual, I'll be back. I'll be back playing Final Fantasy 16 on Tuesday, and I forgot I won't be doing Godot next Saturday. I forgot that our game of Bunkers and Badasses, which is tabletop Borderlands, with some of my friends will be starting, and will be streamed. We'll be streaming, starting our game of Bunkers and Badasses on Saturday. That is the 29th. I can't believe we're already towards the end of August. Jesus. That will be next Saturday. So no code work Saturday. I'll continue after that. All right. Thanks all for hanging out. I hope you all have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully. I'll see you next time. Bye.